These ports are mainly used to connect the external devices to the computer system. This cache memory is a very high speed memory that is going to be located in between RAM and CPU. This SMPS will going to convert the alternative current to direct current. Then what is the abbreviation of this SMPS? That is switched mode power supply. If I wanted to insert or if I wanted to have some more devices which is external than the computer system, then this port will going to be used. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I welcome you all to the revision class on the chapter 1, that is typical configuration of computer systems. I am Rohini TS, lecturer, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In this session, we will be learning regarding the revision class of this chapter 1. So before that, you have to understand what is the marks weightage for this chapter. Already we have discussed in the concept class. As for the revision class, you have to understand totally you are going to get 3 questions from this chapter, and that is for 6 marks. Then what is the marks distribution? So you can expect 1 question for 1 mark, and you can expect 1 question for 2 marks and 1 question for 3 marks. So no need to worry about the 5 mark question. You need to concentrate only on the 1 marks, 2 marks as well as the 3 marks questions. So that is totally you are going to get 3 questions, that is for 6 marks. So now I just wanted to give you the brief introduction regarding this chapter. So as we all know that typical configuration of computer system. So what is this? So we are just understanding the basic concept of a computer system, how it will going to work, what are the main components we have in it, so what are the types of components we have, what is the advantages of having that components, everything that we are going to learn in a depth manner in the first session or in a first chapter. So when you wanted to understand this typical configuration of a computer system, first you have to understand what you mean by computer. So first you have to understand what is computer, then what are the components of computer we have. So I can say that is functional components of a computer system. So after that you have to understand regarding the motherboard. So we are going to deal this motherboard, right? So motherboard is a main component. So where we are going to call this as a PCB, that is printed circuit board. Okay, motherboard is a main component of a computer system. It will going to have a connection, or it will going to incorporate all the chips, all the slots, all the ports, IO ports, input output devices, everything will going to be connected to the motherboard. So it will be considered as a main circuit board. So it is also considered as what? PCB or printed circuit board. Okay, so after this definition of a motherboard, you have to concentrate regarding the characteristics of a motherboard. What are the characteristics that we have in a motherboard? It has a form factor, it has a chipset, and also it consists of processor slot. And also you have to concentrate regarding the types of motherboard. So types you have to concentrate. We have AT motherboard, and we have ATX motherboard, and we have XT motherboard, and also we have a baby AT motherboard. So in this you have to learn its abbreviation, what are the components that include, and you have to concentrate on its number of sockets or number of power pin connector, and you have to concentrate about the example of each type of a motherboard. Then mainly you have to think about the components of a motherboard. So what are the components that we have in a motherboard? That is the main concept of this chapter 1. So when it comes to the components of a motherboard, it comprises of BIOS, that is basic input output system, and also we have a CMOS. So whatever we are going to get, all these abbreviations are very important question for 1 marks. So whatever the abbreviation that we are going to get from this chapter 1 can be asked for 1 mark. So you need to be very conscious regarding the abbreviation of all the acronyms here. So BIOS, that is basic input output system, it will going to take care about all the hardware components. And this CMOS, that is complementary metal oxide semiconductor. So it will going to take care about the date and time of a computer system. And also we have a slots, right? So we have to understand what is the definition of slot and what are the types of slot we have. All these things are very important. And also we have a ports and IO interface. We have ports and input output interface, right? So these ports are mainly used to connect the external devices to the computer system. So these slots will going to improve the capability of a computer system. And also we have disk controller. So it comprises of hard disk controller and we have a floppy disk controller, right? And also you have to think about one more component of a motherboard, that is bus. It is a collection of parallel wires. It will going to take care about the address, control signal. It will also take the data signals. So that is regarding bus. So I will discuss each type of components separately along with a question and answer session. So after these many points, what is the next topic that needs to be concentrated on this chapter 1? So you have to be conscious regarding the types of memory. So what is the requirement of having this memory? What are the types we have? So we have to have a primary memory and also we have a secondary memory. So in the primary memory we have a RAM and ROM, right? So in this RAM and ROM you have to understand the different types of RAM and different types of ROM. So that and all you have to think about in the primary memory. So when it comes to the secondary memory, that is a permanent memory, and you have to concentrate on the difference between primary memory as well as the secondary memory. So now by looking all these concepts, so how computer will going to work? Mainly we have to give a power to the computer system. That means we have to provide an electricity to the computer system, right? So when it comes to the power consumption or giving the power supply to the computer, that power supply can be takes place with the two types. So when it comes to the power supply, it can be of two types. One is by making use of SMPS and another one is by making use of UPS, right? So SMPS, switched mode power supply, and we have a UPS, that is uninterruptible power supply. There you have to understand the types of UPS and example of types of UPS and what is the another name or what is the alternative name that we have for each type of UPS. So this is what overall brief discussion regarding the chapter 1. These many topics that we have in a chapter 1, you have to concentrate on all the components of a motherboard. So you have to concentrate what is the usage of having this BIOS and CMOS, and also what do you mean by slot, what are the types of slot we have, and what is the working procedure of each slot, what is the use of having the ports, and what is the use of having this disk controller, and what do you mean by bus. Okay, so at last we have a cache memory, that is high speed memory. So it also comes under the memory. So cache memory is a high speed memory. So in this cache memory also you need to understand the types of cache memory along with a diagram. So these are the topics that we are going to learn, or that these are the topics that you have to understand from a chapter 1 called typical configuration of a computer system. So you are going to get 1 question 1 marks, and 2 mark 1 question, and 3 marks 1 question. No need to worry about the 5 marks. We'll see the most frequently asked important question from this chapter. What is the first question? That is under the 1 mark question. Define microprocessor. So what is this microprocessor is all about? It is an electronic component. It is a single integrated circuit. In short, it will be considered as IC chip. Mainly this will going to include all the computation engine within it. That is what this microprocessor is all about. And if they ask for the example of microprocessor, you can write we have a AMD, we have Celeron, and also we have a Intel. What is the next question? What is cache memory? Now only I told you, right? This cache memory is a very high speed memory that is will going to be located in between RAM and CPU. So if you are using any data and information more often for the processing, then that kind of data and information will going to be stored in this cache memory. We'll see the next question. What is bus? It's not about red bus and green bus. So we are talking about the component of a motherboard. So when it comes to the bus, it is just a collection of parallel wires. So that will going to form a pathway in order to carry address. It will going to carry the data, and also it controls the control signal. Next, what is the use of SMPS? I told you, right, regarding SMPS, mainly for the power supply to the computer system. What is the use of having this SMPS then? So it will going to convert an AC power from an electrical outlet to DC power. So it will convert the alternative current to direct current, so that which will going to be needed by the system components of a computer. So in order to have a efficient usage of a components of a computer, we require a power supply. So this SMPS will going to convert the alternative current to direct current. Then what is the abbreviation of this SMPS? That is switched mode power supply. This is also most frequently asked question for 1 marks. Expand SMPS. All the expansion from this chapter is very important. You should not neglect in order to score out of out. Next, expand the term DDR-RAM. What is this DDR-RAM? And I wanted to give you one more tip. When you are writing an acronym or when you are writing an expansion, whatever the first letter that we have here should be in capital. So when you are writing the answer for that, it should be in capital. So what is this DDR-RAM? Double data rate RAM. So that is random access memory. Random access memory. So this is the abbreviation of this DDR-RAM, and also give the purpose of expansion slot. Already I told you about the slot. Slot is mainly an opening in a computer system. So we are going to use this opening space in order to insert a PCB, that is printed circuit board or a motherboard. So then what is the main purpose of having this expansion slot? So if I have an expansion slot, I can insert PCB. Then that will going to improve, or it will going to expand the capability of a computer. Then what is port here? Port. We are not talking about the port which is near the seaside. Okay. Port is nothing but it is also a socket on the computer, mainly used to connect the external devices to the computer. So in order to include or in order to insert external devices like keyboard, scanner, printer, so then we are going to use this port. That is also opening in a computer, mainly used to insert external devices to the computer. If I am saying external devices, it is just apart from the peripheral devices, like if you consider input, output along with the memory, that will be considered as a peripheral device. If I wanted to insert or if I wanted to have some more devices which is external than the computer system, then this port will going to be used. So next we have mention any one disk controller. So we have two kinds of disk controller. One is hard disk controller, another one is floppy disk controller. So out of that, you can mention any one in order to get 1 marks. Next, what are register? So we have a cache memory, we have a register, we have a primary memory, we have a secondary memory. So if I'm talking about all these memory, mainly this register is also some kind of small memory. This will going to hold the data and information of a intermediate data. That means which I have collected from my input and which needs to be supplied to the processing. After the processing, it needs to be displayed on a screen as an output. So within the time span, it has to be stored somewhere. Then where I'm supposed to store that? That is with the help of this register. So that registers are the small amount of high speed memory which will going to contain within the CPU. It will be inside the CPU, mainly used to store the intermediate data and instruction which is not yet processed and which is not displayed as a result, but I have taken that as an input that has to be stored somewhere before the processing, even after the processing, until it reaches to the output screen. That kind of memory will be termed as what? Register. So these are the most frequently asked question with respect to 1 mark. We'll see about the 2 marks question here. So when it comes to the 2 mark question, it's like what just like mention or give the difference or give the expansion, that kind of questions that you can expect for 2 marks. So what is this first question? Expand SDRAM and DDR-RAM. So what do you mean by SDRAM here? Synchronous dynamic random access memory. Don't forget to write the abbreviation for this RAM also. Okay, don't leave as it is. Synchronous dynamic random access memory. Already we have discussed regarding this DDR-RAM, that is double data rate random access memory. If they are asking just to mention, no need to explain. If they are asking you to briefly explain, as per the marks, you have to explain. Next, write the names of any 2 types of motherboard. So we have 4 kinds of motherboard. So we have XT motherboard, we have AT motherboard, we have baby AT, and we have ATX. Okay, so XT, extended technology, advanced technology, baby advanced technology, and advanced technology extended. We have 4 kinds of motherboard. Out of this, you can explain or you can just mention any 2 out of this 4 in order to get 2 marks. We'll see the question number 3. Mention any 2 features of USB. And surely you can also expect this USB question for 3 marks also. That is most frequently asked question for 2 and 3 mark question. And you should not leave this concept called USB. Okay, this is also one of the port. Why we are going to use this then? Universal serial bus. It is also port. Already we know we are going to use a port in order to include or in order to insert external devices to the computer system. In the same way, this universal serial bus port is mainly used to connect a variety of newer peripheral like printer, scanner, digital camera, web camera, speaker, etc. to a computer system. So we are going to use this USB in order to connect various peripheral input and output devices to the computer system. This USB port gives a single, standardized, easy to use way to connect a variety of newer peripheral to the computer. So when we are having this USB port in our computer like a laptop or any of the PC, no need to turn off the computer system. When I wanted to insert a new peripheral to the computer system, like if I wanted to insert a scanner or if I wanted to insert external mouse to the computer system, at that time no need of turning off the computer system. That is what it will going to provide a single, standardized and easy to use way of connecting the variety of devices to the computer system. Mainly, this USB is a plug and play interface between computer and add-on devices, such that it will going to have a audio players, modem and scanner. So plug and play in the sense what? As I told, no need to turn off the computer system. So you just need to insert that into the USB port and you can get the benefit of those add-on devices on a computer system. That may comprises of audio players, modulator and demodulator and scanner, printer, etc. And with this USB, a new device can be added to your computer without adding an adapter card or even turning the computer off. Then it will going to support a data speed of 12 megabit per second. So you can have a data transparency of 12 Mbps and also it supports up to 127 kinds of devices. Like if I mention this audio player, modem, scanner, in the same way up to 127 devices it can support. This is regarding USB and you can expect this question for 2 marks as well as for 3 marks and for 1 marks. In what kind? Which port is also considered as plug and play interface, that is USB. All these things needs to be concentrated regarding this USB port. We'll see the question number 4 here. What is serial port and parallel port? So when you are getting these kind of question for 2 marks, you have to analyze the serial port is for 1 marks and this parallel port is for 1 marks. So now we'll see about the serial port as well as the parallel port. So here I have listed out so many features regarding this serial port as well as the parallel port. You can write the definition. So the serial port is also known as communication port or RS-232C ports. Why we are going to use this? It is used for connecting the communication devices like mouse and modem. So when I wanted to insert mouse and modem to the computer system, then I have to go with a serial port. So and then it is used for connecting the communication devices and also this will going to transfer a data serially 1 bit at a time. So serial in the sense it will transfer only 1 bit at a time. So main advantage is that data is sent and received over only 2 lines. So it will be serial in nature. So data will going to be sent from one line and data will going to be received in another line. Then what about parallel? So parallel ports are used to connect the external input or output devices like printers, scanners. If I wanted to have a printer, scanner, in order need to be inserted to computer system, I must have this parallel port. It is also considered as what? Printer port. Why? Because it will going to help me in order to insert a printer. So it will going to carry 8 bit at a time. So 8 bit is equal to 1 byte. It will going to carry 1 byte at a time. This is regarding what? Serial port and parallel port. We'll see the next question, that is with respect to 3 marks. So when you are working with 2 marks question, you have to understand you are going to get the question like abbreviation like expansion and difference between, or you can get the question like mention. No need to worry much regarding the explanation. So now we'll see about this 3 marks questions here. Explain any 3 types of motherboard. So what is the question? Explain any 3 types. Already we got to know that we have 4 types, right? XT, AT, baby AT and ATX. Out of that you can explain any 3 for 3 marks. And when you are answering this question, you have to understand what is the abbreviation of each type. Okay, so I will give you the 3 points. So if you have written that 3 points, surely you can get 3 marks here. So you have to understand its abbreviation and you need to concentrate on the components which will going to be resides on this particular type of motherboard, and you have to worry about the power pin connector. That means you have to write the number of power pin connector along with 1 or 2 example. So this is how we are supposed to write the answer for this types of motherboard. So when it comes to the first type, that is XT, what is the abbreviation here? Extended technology. It is what? Old one. So, but what are the components it comprises of? So, we can find we have a socket like LIF, and also it consists of RAM slots, DIMM, and it also has a ISA ports and it has a ISA slots. So, these are the component which will going to be there in the extreme motherboard. Then what is the power point connector? What is the number of power pin connector here? That is, it has a 12 pin power connector. And also example is Pentium 1, Pentium MMX, Pentium 2 and Pentium Pro. Okay, with same thing will going to be applied for AT. What is the abbreviation? Advanced technology. What are the component it has in? It has PGA, it has PCI slot and it has ISA slot, and mainly it has 20 pin power connector. And what is the example? Pentium 3 processor. This is regarding what? AT motherboard. And I will take a baby AT instead of ATX. So baby AT is nothing but it is just a combination of both XT as well as the AT. Okay, it is like a hybrid of XT and AT. So this consists of what? It has a built-in sockets for input-output ports. And also it will going to have an example called Pentium 3 and Pentium 4. This is how we are supposed to write the answer for this types of motherboard. And also I have written regarding this ATX. So if you wanted to write more content for the types of motherboard, you can have it. We'll see the next type, that is explain the characteristics of motherboard. What are the 3 characteristics that we have in a motherboard? We have form factor, we have chipset and we have a processor slot. So when it comes to the form factor, it will going to give you the brief description regarding what is the structure of this motherboard. Like it will gives you the length, width and dimension, what is its geometry, what must be the number of slot, what must be the number of ports, so what must be the kinds of slot we are supposed to take. That means totally it will going to give you the structure. That means how the motherboard should be. So it will going to refers to the motherboard geometry, dimensions and arrangement and electrical requirements of a motherboard. What is the second characteristics that we have? That is chipset. So mainly this chipset will going to take care about coordination of the data transfer between the various components of a computer, and mainly it will going to control the majority of the resources of a computer, like with respect to memory, with respect to time, with respect to input and output operation. All those data controls will going to be taken place with the help of this chipset. And also we have the processor socket. So this processor socket mainly used to insert a CPU or a processor in the motherboard. This is what the characteristics of a motherboard. It comprises of what? Form factor, chipset and processor socket. So 3 points, 3 marks. Next we'll see the question. What is the purpose of ports, buses and this controller in input-output system? So I told you regarding the components of a motherboard, all the components are very, very important. So here what they are asking, what is the use of having this ports and bus, and what is the use of having this disk controller? So when it comes to the port, already we got to know that it is a socket mainly used to add the external devices to the computer. What is the use of having this port in the computer system? Mainly it will going to improve the capability of a computer. If I wanted to insert external devices to the computer, that will help me in order to improve its capability. So that is the use of having this port. Next, what is the use of having a bus? That is a collection of a pathway or a collection of a parallel wires that will going to form a pathway in order to carry address, data as well as the control signal. So if I wanted to carry address, data and control signal within the computer system, then it is mandatory to have this bus as a component in the input-output system. Next, what is the use of having this disk controller? We have hard disk controller, floppy disk control. Then what is the use of having this? Mainly a device that connects a disk drive to the computer's bus, which enabling the drive to exchange the data within other device. So we have a hard disk, floppy disk. I can store the data. If I wanted to communicate with other device or if I wanted to send and receive the data from other devices, then we must have this disk controller. This will going to connect the disk drive to the computer bus. With the help of bus, I can carry this address, data as well as the control signals. Next, we'll see about the question, explain the types of cache memory. Very important question, which is most frequently asked question for 3 marks. So along with a diagram, you have to explain what is this cache memory is all about. So now this cache memory is a very high speed memory, and where it will going to be located? It will be between the RAM and CPU. So most frequently used data and information will going to be stored in this cache memory, and we are going to differentiate this cache memory which is based on its size, which will going to be very lesser in a size, but it will going to be store the data and information which is more frequently required for the processing of a data. So this cache memory is very expensive. Though it is smaller in size, it is very expensive. Why? Because of this faster processing speed. So now it has a sizes which will be ranges from 256 KB to 2 MB, and we are going to have a categories of a cache memory. We are not considering this as a types. We will be considering this as a levels. Okay, it has 3 levels: L1, L2 and L3. So when you are writing answer for this cache memory, you have to understand what is L1, what is L2, where it has been resides in between, and what is the use of having this 3 types of cache memory. So when it comes to the level 1 cache memory, it mainly fast, extremely fast and relatively smaller in size. If it is mass, it will be smaller in size, and also usually present inside the CPU. It will be inside the CPU. Then what is its size? So it will varies from 32 KB to 512 KB. Then level 2, it will be located in the outside of a CPU. It will be outside of the CPU. This L1 will be inside of a CPU. So on a separate chip, on a high speed system bus, interconnecting the cache to the CPU. Then what is its size? It will be varies from 1 MB to 2 MB. Then level 3. So we have a level 1 and level 2. Who is going to control and coordinate the working of this L1 and L2? That will going to be done by L3. Okay, so it is typically specialized memory that works to improve the performance of L1 as well as the L2, and also it is lower than L1 and L2 because it is taking a overburden of this L1 and L2 in the L3. So that's why it will be slower. Along with the diagram, you have to explain regarding this cache memory. We'll see the next question, that is question number 5. What is the purpose of UPS? Mention the types of UPS. Understand, dear student, what is the purpose of UPS is for 1 marks and its type is for 2 marks, right? Then what is the UPS here? UPS is nothing but uninterruptible power supply. Without interrupting anything, we are supplying the power to computer system in order to improve the efficiency of a working components of a computer system. So UPS is a power supply that includes a battery to maintain the power in the event of power failures. If a power failures occur, then this UPS will be used in order to give a power or in order to give the electricity supply to the computer system component. So it will going to keep the computer running for several minutes to few hours even after the power failure occurs. Then what are the types of UPS we have? We have 2 types. One is offline UPS and another one is online UPS. Offline UPS is also considered as what? Standby UPS. So you can expect that what is or which UPS is also considered as a standby UPS, that is offline UPS. Next, we'll see the next question. Write the functions of data bus, address bus and control bus. Totally, bus concept is very important for 3 marks. That can be completely asked for 3 marks, or these kind of questions may arise. What is the use of having this data bus? Mainly, it will going to provide a part to transfer the data between the CPU and the memory. If I wanted to transfer any data between CPU and memory, I must have this data bus. So, it may consist of 32, 64 and 128 lines of wires. So, here wire is nothing but data transfer. If I have this 32 lines of wire, that specify the thickness of a data transfer. So, I can use this in order to transfer the data between CPU and memory. What is the use of address bus? It will going to connect the CPU and RAM with a set of lines which is somehow similar like this data bus. So, it will going to carry the address. And then we have a control bus. So, why we are going to use this control bus? Then it is used to control the access to and use of the data and address line. So, we have a data and address line. Control bus is used to control and coordinate the accessibility to the data and this address lines. This is regarding this question. We'll see the next question. Explain briefly different types of input-output ports. So, here I have listed out so many types of input-output ports. Out of this, you can explain any 3. So, it comprises of serial port, parallel port, USB port, VGA port. You should not forget regarding serial port, parallel port, USB port. So, if you learned all those things, those 3 can be written for 3 marks question. And also, we have a VGA port, PS2, in order to connect the mouse to the computer system, personal system port, and IDE, integrated digital electronic port. We have a AGP, accelerated graphic port, and VGA, visual graphics adapter port, then modem, modulator and demodulator, and we have a Ethernet port, and we have a MIDI, that is musical instrument digital interface port. So, here you can take any 3 and you can explain any 3 in order to get 3 marks. We'll see the next question, that is regarding what is bus. Mention it types. So, understand this is for 1 marks and remaining question is for 2 marks. What is bus then? Bus is a collection of parallel wires that mainly used to form a pathway in order to carry address, data and control signals. So, remember, you have to understand it in the sense of CAD. So, it will going to carry what control signal, address as well as the data. Okay. Then what is the types of bus we have? We have 2 kinds of bus. One is internal bus and external bus. Don't get confused. We have 2 types. One is internal bus and external bus. So, under the external bus, we have the CAD. That is what we have control bus. We have address bus. And also we have this data bus. These are the 3 types which comes under external bus. I hope you all understood. So, this is what you have to concentrate from the chapter 1. So, this will surely gonna help you in order to get 6 marks from this chapter. It's all about today's session. Let me meet you in the next session with a revision of further chapters. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.